Good afternoon. Is it afternoon yet? Yeah, it is. My time clock is all completely messed up. So good afternoon. Thanks for joining us again. And first of all, to start with by saying the description in this YouTube video is not quite related to, what we've done. But as we've said in the past, to catch you up if this is the first time you're watching, we're moving around Iceland. We did have a schedule. We're obviously holding that schedule to where we're staying, but the kind of locations we're going to also varies a bit on the weather. So where we were going to go last night was a lighthouse, which we're going to go to today.
Yep.
Correct. But what we did manage to do, let's bring up just the background stuff and then
You've got 2 days of holiday slideshow to run
2 days of holiday slideshow, exactly. So we left you at this expletive canyon, which was the third time we went there, I think, wasn't it?
Yep, third night.
Third night in a row.
Third night of the same cloud.
Yeah, so you can see Paul hanging out on this viewing platform with the cloud, which did kind of mess up the experience.
It wasn't what we ordered.
No, it wasn't what we ordered. And if we just let's just find the shot, actually. So this is my shot, not Paul's. And it's okay, but I haven't spent a huge amount of time editing it. I think there's a little bit of a tweak on here.
I mean, so let's be fair. The canyon is impressive. It's a huge, great big gorge. Yeah. It is stunning. The waterfalls that go into it are fantastic. The place is great.
Yeah.
The challenge you have with this sort of shot is we can crop it down. You can make it all about the rock formation. You can make it about the layers and all the texture and everything like that. But if you want it as effectively a landscape shot, as a bit of a vista, some sort of sky would have been better. Certainly with some texture in there. We got texture on the third night. In fact, to be fair, the third night's the best night that we were there, in that it wasn't raining and too windy. But it didn't have any of the glow that we were hoping to get into the canyon.
I mean, you can see all the exposures, and it's pretty much,
So you want light bouncing around in there, and especially with something like the blue water, because there is blue water, there's bright red rocks and all that sort of stuff. You need light to get into the canyon. So, great location, bad weather.
Bad weather, exactly. So I didn't spend too much time editing that. But then we shifted location. We're in a town called Borgarnes. Borgarnes, which was, 3 or 4 hours drive up from Vik, where we were staying before. And the plan was to go and visit a few sites. We'll talk about this lovely picture in a second. This place, if you know anything about Iceland, you've probably seen it.
It's the oldest wooden church.
Oldest wooden church in Iceland, but during the day, of course, it's extremely busy. You can see this is Paul lurking over here. And it was actually busier than that for most of the time, I would say.
An awful lot of tour buses arrived and no one seemed to go to church.
No, exactly.
Interesting.
Definitely, but it's a great location. Let me just filter this back down to 5 stars. And this was the kind of shot I got during the day. And we'll edit a couple of pictures once we've spoken about the timeline and so on. And I was pretty happy with this, and this was taken at, if we look here, 7:41 at night. So still extremely bright, doesn't look like late evening really, to be honest. But Paul assured me it would get better. And looking at, let's go to shall we talk about this?
We can. Yeah. So we talked about this in the first broadcast we did, but there are loads of tools out there. There's photo pills as well, and so on. This is one of them. And there are tools that will give you an indication of whether or not you're going to see sunset colors.
Yeah.
The decision to go here rather than to the lighthouse was actually based on weather this, rather than wind, rain, and so on, because what we saw was there is effectively more color likely on this peninsula than there was up at the lighthouse. So if we're going to put our eggs into one basket, we're going to follow the color, as it were. Now, these maps will go to extremely bright red all the way through to blue and white. This being a sort of a mid-tone, so we're expecting something that was probably okay. Warm light, golden sort of clouds a little bit, but nothing particularly on fire.
Yeah.
But at least it was going to be better than where we were due to go.
Yes, exactly. And this is just such a great tool, and it doesn't matter if you're shooting landscape or whatever. You could be doing a portrait session outside. You could be doing a lifestyle shoot or something like that. So if you've got a choice of, and the other location is off the map, isn't it?
It's off to the right and up quite a way.
Quite a way. So, but even, you know, you can see just on this small section that it varies quite a bit. And this was specific for a certain time, wasn't it?
Just to Vincent's point.
Yeah.
Cheat and use some sky replacement. No.
No.
So for many reasons, I have issues with sky replacement. The biggest reason is it's rubbish. But the second reason, actually, one of the reasons I like being a travel and landscape and cityscape photographer is I get to see places.
Yeah.
And I get to see them in different seasons and different light and different styles and whatever. Part of this is you've got somewhere to go back to. You know, if you turned up and everything was perfect every time or everything was replaced in the sky, don't leave your living room, honestly. Save yourself the hassle. Just stay at home. Download some clip art and put a unicorn in the sky. But I would rather the fun of trying to find the right place at the right time and get something cool out of it.
And this is 7 o'clock?
Yep.
This is 20 past midnight. So quite different, really. In this one, a lot of the time there was quite a harsh shadow on the roof, wasn't there? When the sun was in full blast. But it's chalk and cheese. We'll make this one better, actually, when we edit it as well, with the help of one of Paul's stars. But I was quite happy when I shot that. And then the naive person I am, you know, with this, because I'm not an experienced landscape photographer like Paul, it's like, how does it really get better? Clouds look nice, good color separation and so on, but it's kind of a world really away from that. And you actually, after we'd put the cameras away, and decided
after you put your camera away.
After I put my camera away and decided and declared I was done, you actually, you had put your camera away, hadn't you? And then you unpacked it again because you'd gone off to shoot something else.
And the sky changed.
And the sky changed once more. So that golden hour period, there was actually a friend of mine asked me a question, Bob, on Instagram. Like shooting long exposures, is it quite frustrating? Do you not have much time? Which normally you wouldn't have much time because it would be, the golden hour would be over in, you know, no time whatsoever.
Well, half an hour either side. So
half an hour either side. This was 2 minutes, 6 seconds. You can see at the bottom. Plus every time I do 2 minutes, and I think I was up to 6 minutes at one point, the camera then does another 6 minutes or equal time black frame calibration, so it finds all the hot pixels and so on. So if you've only got half an hour either side, you could potentially only have 3 or 4 shots to do it.
Yeah, whereas last night so golden hour started at about 11:15. Sunset was about 12:15, or sunset was at 12:15.
Yeah.
Stayed all the way through with us. I think we had some drones up at about 2:30. We were still shooting there at 2 odd. By the time we got back here, you're looking at about 3-ish, and sunrise was beginning again, and you've got golden hour through till about 4:30.
Yeah, so loads of time.
You've got 4 or 5 hours where the sky changes, but it doesn't dim, which is what we were looking for, not the canyon weather.
No,
this
exactly. Good question from Carla. She said, "Did you stay there between 7 and midnight, or did you return when it was better?" No, we went for a little drive, didn't we?
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So a little drive. We left to go to, where were we going to go? Oh, we went to
Kirkjufell.
Kirkjufell, yeah. Hence Paul's grumpy face.
So Kirkjufell is a very recognisable place, as some of you will recognise the landscape behind the troll in the photo. There are a couple of waterfalls on the left-hand side, a little stream, big mountain in the background, which is Kirkjufell. So Kirkjufell's Foss is the waterfall itself.
This one.
And you'll recognise, there are lots of Icelandic adverts and so on that feature it. The challenge is, and yesterday in one of the AMA question things, someone asked whether Iceland's been over-photographed. It hasn't been over-photographed. It's been over-touristed.
Yeah.
And when I see places like this, so I remember this place where you pulled into the dirt track at the bottom of the hill, walked up the edge and went around. This thing is now a massive tarmacked parking lot at the top of the hill, so no one even has to walk uphill to get to where you want to go.
No, you used to have to walk down over here, didn't you, down to the park?
Which in the ice was fun. But, you know, it's been made so accessible, great on one hand, but on the other hand, yes, it does drive hundreds and hundreds of people to be there at the same time. Yeah. So this being such an iconic place for the midnight sun, you're going to find loads of photographers there. And there were, when we got there, lined up with their little slots ready to go.
There's probably only space for 10, 15 people,
something
I guess,
like that.
Isn't there?
Yeah, so if you want that view, obviously there are other views. So I think there is a whole point around, has anywhere been over photographed? No, because you can always find something different in it. Yeah. But places around Iceland are genuinely getting way too saturated with people in general. And you know, we're here. We're part of that saturation. But there are two choices. One is you look at different places within the country. The other is you look at different countries to visit. Yeah. If you're trying to get that open space away from anyone, because the hotspots now are full of people. And I haven't seen any of the classic places since we've been here that aren't rammed with
really
tourists.
Busy. Yeah.
So just be aware of it.
Yeah. And, you know, I shot this. We didn't stay there long, did we? I mean, is it an okay photo? Sure, it's fine. But, you know, what I don't like about these kind of scenes is that you're in the landscape, but then we've got roped off paths. There's a concrete bridge over here. There's people. How dare they? So it kind of left me cold. But anyway, we were on this nice little drive to Kirkjufell, if I said that right. And then we found this little spot, which was an ice, I guess it's,
it's got a mountain hut.
I thought I'd grabbed a picture of it. Little mountain hut with bunks inside if you happen to get stuck in inclement weather and so on. But that was way more fun to find something a little bit unusual like that and different than a place which most people know about. I mean, kind of hypocritical after going ahead and shooting this, but that's a pretty stunning scene, really. So the reason why I wasn't so keen on the other one was, as I said, you've got those walkways, concrete bridges. It's just, I don't know, not quite so exciting. But this was lovely.
You did the classic, so I know people that have done this as well. They get to Kirkjufell and go, is that it?
Yeah. I was very confused.
And it's actually really, there are lots of places around the world that are like that. Yeah. And there are some that I've shot where when people actually go there and they see how small or how compact, I guess, the area is. It's not the grand vista that an ultra-wide lens suggests. And you sort of get that a little bit with Kirkjufellsfoss, where it is an iconic photo. You would miss it from the road if you were driving along.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But it can look great. And actually, the people that were there last night, given what we saw the other side of the peninsula, they will have had an amazing sunset during midnight sun.
Yeah, exactly.
So
because
great.
I didn't hang around, or we didn't hang around until optimal conditions. So, of course, not going to get an optimal picture. Yeah. But it also credits the photographers who have shot it. And I thought, wow, that's a really cool place. You know, that's part of the skill, isn't it? So. So we found this lovely little hut.
Talking about tourists then, let's go to the little mountain hut.
Oh, mountain hut, yes.
Not mountain hut. And again, you can see this place from the side of the road. If you drive from Vik back to Reykjavik, you will see it instantly. It's quite
it's very cool.
An obvious location in that sense.
And this was day before yesterday, so we catching you up on this.
But while we were there, so we were off on a track where we were supposed to be, allowed to be and whatever. While we were there, and there is an interesting trend I see, and this has happened for years now, but it's getting more and more. Cars follow cars. Yeah. So when a car stops at the side of the road, automatically everyone else stops. Then needs to stop.
Looking up at the sky.
They must have stopped for a reason, therefore there must be that. And what's sad in this place is there are a lot of signs around here saying, do not enter, private property, please leave us alone.
Literally just out of frame there.
And what we witnessed was tens and tens of people during the time that we were there, which wasn't long, all lining up and effectively trespassing. Yeah. Now, it's one thing to want to explore somewhere different, unique. I've just said it. Try and find somewhere unique and different. Yeah. But please show some respect to the people that live there, the people that work on that land, that live on that land. I've seen it down in Provence, down the lavender field stuff in France, and the farmers are going nuts over the fact that people just trample their land.
Yeah,
it's private property.
Yeah, this is the same as someone wandering down your driveway at home and standing in front of your window and taking a picture.
There's a wider thing around, and actually, if you see it, please don't be afraid to call it out. Just mention to someone, because the less people do it, the more places will remain open to allow people to go and photograph it.
Carla says, I was pretty meh about Kirkjufell, but I did actually enjoy it more than I expected. Went for the icon because we were there. Yeah, exactly. Leroy says, hi Leroy again. Thanks for saying that. Indeed, please show some respect to the farmers and the people that live here. Yeah, exactly. It's not nice to go stomping around over someone else's land. So that was the day before yesterday. Oh, also, not an amazing picture, but cute little church shot from the side of the road. I'm shooting these mostly to show keystone things for tutorials and other stuff, and we won't do a full edit on this one, but quick auto keystone, jobs are good. So it's good material for that. We also shot Yoda. So if you can wonder why it's been nicknamed Yoda, it's because of this. But it was a really great example of HDR. So if
which we'll run through.
Yeah. Let's run through it. So these are all various different brackets that I made. This was a pretty extreme range. So if we just open up this one, so we've got.
You're actually lucky it wasn't so bright outside. It would have been even
more extreme. And then in the cave, well up to super extreme, we've got something along those lines. Generally, +2, 0, -2 is enough. But Paul actually, fortunately, said, make it a bit. Well, you said go for +4.
If your camera does bracketing, and we'll talk about this over the coming sort of lives and sessions and stuff, but there's a principle here, which is you're here once. So I'm not taking you to Yoda Cave again.
No.
So if you want to take that picture of Yoda Cave, you better get it right.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if you've got a camera that does, for example, automatic bracketing, and you've got a choice of it can do 3 brackets, 5 brackets, 7 brackets, 9 brackets, whatever, and you've got a choice of stops between them. Yes, you can, of course, do a +-2 stop 3 bracket exposure, and it will probably do a good job. But while you're there, why not set it to 5?
Yeah,
and do +2, +4, -2, -4, whatever. Why not set it to 7? Because the time it takes you to do that is an awful lot less than the time it's going to take you later on if you didn't have enough of an exposure gap to try and do it or fly back.
Yeah, exactly. So we ended up with...
It's a seize the opportunity one.
Where is it? It's 0, and then we've got, down here, sorry, -2, +2, -4, +4. So generally I would pick the -2, 0, but actually these 3, so if I just shift select these 3, I think it's, my mistake. These 3, so we've got super bright.
So it's your +2, your -4, and so then your +4.
-4 and +4.
Yeah.
So if I do a right click and say merge to HDR, and we're going to say auto adjust, don't be afraid of auto adjust on HDR. It was shot on a tripod, so I don't need to hit auto align. But auto adjust is not doing anything permanent, it's just moving the sliders in Capture One, which you can also change afterwards, but it gets you a hell of a long way down the road to editing rather than having to fiddle about with it. So there's our HDR that we just did, and away we go. And you can see if I scroll down, we've got some high dynamic range stuff shifted around and a bit on exposure and contrast. If we do the before and after, that's the HDR merge without any editing, and that's what Capture One's done. And I would say that's quite a nice sympathetic.
It's done it really well.
Yeah, actually. Sympathetic blend between not having a ridiculous amount of detail in the shadows.
It's okay for a shadow to be dark.
Yeah,
that's the one thing to not forget. It can be a shadow, it's okay, but getting texture in some of the sort of mid-darks is quite valuable.
I did miss this person though, which we can heal out, I would think, which I was a bit annoyed about. So let's just grab a bit of beach and away we go. But I hadn't seen them. And I think, did I try auto rotate? Yeah, there we go. And just a little spin of a rotate as well. But if we look at one of the darks, let's say if we just even go to this one where we've got a nice exposure on the highlights, if we open up the shadows There's really not a lot going on in there, and then we just start to get this.
Noise.
Yeah. So even though the camera I was shooting with, the Sony a7 III, it's a great camera, it's still not, you know, can't perform miracles. And simple HDR like that.
So if you pull up the shadow in that shot, for example, so to an extreme level,
amount,
what you'll end up with is a cleaner.
So if I just pull up the blacks,
maybe need a tint adjustment on there somewhere.
But
it's a cleaner shot, and that's what we're looking for. So the HDR stuff, it's not just about balancing the brights and the darks. It's also about when you do pull up a shadow, you've got clean data in there rather than all the noisy stuff from a traditional underexposed shot.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So that was a fun little experiment. Let's just go and filter those back. Yeah, this was just another little nice color editor challenge, I would say. The only thing I made for this was a little clarity plus just tweak in the hillside. But most of these shots, and we'll actually go to this one, used quite heavily gradients, of course, to balance out sky and subject. But of course, because nothing is necessarily a perfect half gradient, was that the edited one? No, this one. Nothing is like a perfectly edited gradient, so of course
it wouldn't work with the filter.
It wouldn't work with the filter, no, unfortunately, especially with this guy, because we've got the spire that sticks up. So what I did, let's just run through a little edit on this one. So first of all, auto keystone, just to fix that. I'm going to tweak the rotation a little touch as well. Part of keystoning will tweak the rotation as well.
Just before we go too far into this, I just want to cover one thing. This shot is a 2-minute 6-second shot.
Oh yeah, down here you can see.
So without filters, this would be something of less than a second probably.
Yeah.
Well, definitely less than a second. We got to 2 seconds with one filter for David.
Yes.
But then David decided that he needed a second filter and doesn't have a filter holder that can do it.
Yeah.
So, handy hint for everyone in general. Carry some tape in your bag, because David doesn't.
No.
I do. And we can make a filter holder, which is epic.
Yeah.
But genuinely, and we joke about it, but the most valuable thing I have in my camera bag, apart from my camera, is a roll of Gorilla Tape.
Yeah.
Because I can stick a camera to a tripod if I forget the base plate. I can stick a filter to a lens. I can create a flag to block out sun if we don't have enough on the shade with the lens. There are loads of things that just a bit of tape kind of helps with. So please load up your bags with a tiny little roll, because when you do need it, like this,
indispensable.
It's the difference between a 2-second shot, which you would have got, and a 2-minute shot with all of that movement in the sky. Yeah,
and if you're wondering, this lens is 55mm 1.8, I think, Sony Zeiss, and it has quite a small aperture on the front. So even though I've got tape lashed over the front of the filter,
you're not seeing it.
I'm not seeing it. No, I was just trying to open up the shadows so you could see, but it's only a iPhone shot, but it's only yay big in there, so it was comfortable. And of course, I'm not going to try and stand there and hold it for 2 minutes.
You tried.
I tried,
which is why the tape came out. Doing this in front of a lens doesn't work for 2 minutes.
Yeah, but it worked, you know, and it's sharp. You know, didn't knock the camera by trying to hold it. No light leak or anything. So jobs are good. Anyway, keystone done. So in terms of exposure, there's lots of nice stuff in the sky, but generally exposure-wise, it's pretty good. I'd probably open up the shadows a tiny amount. Good even spread of the histogram, so not much to do there. But generally, we kind of want to work with the sky.
In isolation to other things.
Isolation to everything else. So tempted, of course, to add a graduated filter, which is easy enough. And then Option key on your keyboard. Actually, to change this.
Yeah. So before we do this, just turn on the mask. I'm just going to grab here, because I just want to demonstrate to people when we talk about why a filter doesn't work somewhere. So traditionally, we would put a filter along this line here, which gets the sky. So nice graduated filter, great. Yeah. Now let's pull down the exposure. And it does a great job with the sky.
Sky looks awesome.
Look at what it's done to the church. And unless you have a filter of that shape, you're going to run into problems. And this is where the difference between getting it right in camera, absolutely. An ND filter, great in this situation. A soft GND, maybe a little bit. But At some point, you can't do it optically, and this is where masks come in. So please learn how to use masks well, because they can rescue this sort of challenge.
So I'd probably go for something like that, and then we can start messing around with the various different sliders. Maybe we could afford a bit of
saturation. Probably warm up a little bit too.
With the
You have to offset the tint then, because it's going to look like it's gone a bit green when you warm it up. Too much.
Too much.
Back a bit. Yeah.
Good. So now we've got a decent sky. But if we turn that layer on and off, like we just demoed in the more extreme case, of course, we are making the roof dark, which you don't want to do, really. So you've got some choices. If we stick the mask on a grayscale mask, which is option M, you can see what it's doing. So we could start to try and erase bits of it, but that's a bit messy. Like if I grab my erase brush, I could try and cut around here, or auto mask. Very time consuming, not very nice, and so on. So the easiest thing to do is, let's just do option M, stick a luma range in. We want all the bright stuff, and then we basically want to bring this to the right, and then we're going to cut our way around the church quite nicely. This will be quite a hard cutoff, which might be all right in this case, but otherwise we can bring up the radius and the sensitivity.
Which is kind of like a feather.
Yeah, we'll just feather how it spreads into the neighboring pixels. But the benefit of doing it this way, instead of like the magic brush as an example, we've still got our fall off in the background, the gradient, which the end result will be a bit more natural. So if we turn on the adjustment layer now,
it's nice.
It's perfect, yeah.
I've just seen Andrew's just asked, is it possible to have the main toolbar on the right of the screen, easier for right-handed people using a tablet? So there's two questions in there.
Yeah.
In Capture One, yes, it is possible to place the tools right. There's an option on the window, on the view menu.
Sorry.
Customize
tools, place right.
Right, and then it switches across.
Like so.
On iPad, on the iPad app, yes, you can. There's little 3 dots on the top right, and you can say place tools right, I think.
Yep.
And that means that from the iPad app perspective, it goes from having the wheel on the right and the tool selection on the left to having the opposite, effectively. So if you're using pencil or right-handed or whatever else, you keep your finger away from the screen while you're doing it. But yes, in both cases, yes. The main toolbar at the top, if that's what you're talking about, no, as in this, your main one with all of your buttons and everything on, no, that's going to stay up there. But the your panel, your tool panel, absolutely can switch left to right.
Full on set. Oh, look at that. No.
Are you preparing it for Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram. Actually, I don't like that. I think I'll leave it as it is. Yeah, so that little tip of using the luma range just makes a massive difference.
It does help when you have a black church.
It does help. But
so if you couldn't separate it by luma range, so this is where you actually combine it. So you can still use your eraser tools to erase the overall mask, and then luma range to neaten up the very, very complex bits.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not a case of you use luma range or the advanced masking tools. You can use them all together.
Yeah.
It's just luma range is a little more refined when it comes to differences in brightness, strangely, hence its name.
And for this one, I wanted to use the Deep Sky style brush. Yep. But I wanted to use that in combination with a magic brush. So what I did, let's just delete that. If we grab our Deep Sky and then just do a kind of quick and dirty draw around the sky, something like that. And then I can say fill mask. Don't even have to do that, really. But now if I grab the magic brush, and now you can see it's not perfect, but if I grab the magic brush, I can essentially override what the manual brushing did. No, I can't. I have to delete the mask first.
Yeah, you just got to
so if I just clear the mask, there we go, and now do a little like that, fill in the gaps, a little one there.
Just
now
to save you time.
Deep Sky. Yes.
You don't have to actually do the whole sky. You can just, as long as you've painted one
blob.
That's
just one little blob, exactly.
It'll create a layer, good point. And then you can just use your magic brush from there.
Yeah, exactly. So now we've got Deep Sky. It's probably a bit aggressive, so we can pull it back like that. This one may also work with the gradient. I always judge it by looking at, does it look believable Would it look better if this faded off in the background a bit? Maybe. So I think with the church, if we just slapped in a magic brush all the way around the outside and then dropped it in, it would be too harsh. It would look obviously edited. But this one, I can probably get away with it.
Ian's just asked, so go back to your church.
Can you edit the colour of the clouds without affecting the surrounding colours? So, maybe.
Well, so there are different, so the question, I guess, is to different answers. So yes, you can by painting onto the cloud. So there's nothing, and again, we've got all the magic brushes and gradients and whatever. People have forgotten, you can paint a mask. Yeah. So if you want, if you want to actually highlight a cloud, paint it.
Paint it.
So paint the cloud and the mask, and then you can do that in isolation. Also, we could choose the cloud based on their color in the color editor. Also, we could choose them based on their luminosity.
This one, we might have a problem with the fall off. I don't know. So if I pick that and then wanted to, I don't know, make it more saturated, then if I go crazy, you're going to see this. So what you might have to do is bring open the smoothness and perhaps expand out the range a little bit. But because of that fall off into the neighbor, where's it going? It's going into the blues, which is around here.
Yeah, it's going opposite.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult to do with the color editor.
Yeah, so you just have to be a little bit sympathetic about what's going on.
But what you can do, just as a fun one, so if you undo that color editor,
let's just get rid of that. Yeah.
Create a brand new empty layer just so we don't accidentally screw up the current one. Choose the color of the cloud in the advanced color editor.
Oops. This one around there.
And then go to view selected color. So in color editor, we can say, show me everything else in grayscale apart from what I've selected.
So now we can see it.
Yeah. We're going to expand that triangle to cover more of it in general. Nice. Bit wider on there. Good. Okay. We're going to create a mask from that color selection.
Which is in here, which is an oft hidden feature.
Really powerful.
Create mask layer from selection. So that will take that color range selection and do exactly what it says. Make us a new layer.
Now, if we just turn the mask on,
let's just turn off.
Yes, we can get rid of that whole layer.
Yeah,
that can go. I've turned the mask on for our area here. We're going to do two things. Number one, we're going to delete the stuff that we don't want very quickly with an eraser. Number two, once we've done that, just
so get rid of that.
We don't want anything that's not a cloud, effectively. There are some interesting shapes in the sky.
Yeah. Rather phallic cloud.
So now, actually, we've still got that fall-off issue that Dave was talking about, but because it's a mask rather than a luma range, right-click on the area and we can refine the mask and we can feather it too. Yeah. So we can actually blur and have a nice smooth fall-off into the cloud. So if you apply that, I'd go max up.
Max up,
Right, so now you have a mask just on those clouds and some nice feather either side. So you can now...
Feathering probably... Oh, actually, it would make a difference,
So you can use color balance, you can use the color editor, you could use saturation, you could use an individual color, whatever you want with it, but even just pick on saturation, for example. So now you've got control of just the cloud, and how you selected it started from, they're all the same color in general.
Yeah. And then if we wanted to, remember, we've got all of that. So that's a lot fluffier than it was before when you think without the refinement and the feathering and so on. Yeah. Top tip. Do we even need to put your style on now?
Probably not.
Probably not.
In fact, it'll make you look awful. I'd hide that layer because
this one,
because we've got a lot of saturation on it.
So, or if we grab, which one? Golden hour.
Pull highlights in, but apply to a new layer.
So always, not always, but generally putting styles on a layer gives you more flexibility.
It's going to look a lot different when it's
applied to a new layer, and then we'll pull that to around probably something like that.
Yeah,
about 40%. Yeah, smashing.
Cool.
Andrew says, "Brilliant, thank you. You're welcome." Can you? Oh, that was Ian's question, wasn't it? So we've dealt with Ian. I thought I missed a question. Oh, Tony, duct tape is always in my camera bag. Definitely.
Do you know what? Once I genuinely, I walked probably 30 minutes down a hill. Now, the downside of walking 30 minutes down a hill is at some point you've got to walk 30 minutes back up the hill.
Yeah.
Got there, amazing sunset, and I didn't have a base plate for my camera.
Yeah.
And I also didn't have any tape in my bag. From that point, I always have tape in my bag. Because worst case scenario, I can stick something.
Just lash the camera to it. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, this was quite a nice little cheat with the color editor, wasn't it? So it was just a basic color edit. Or did I get rid of it? Must have done. So we've got the lovely mossy colour, but it's a little bit on the, well, I guess it's
yellowy-ish.
Yellowy
side. Browny.
So you can either pick the colour, of course, or you can just choose it. And then with the hue slider, if you're dragging it to the right, easy rule, you're pushing the colour towards its neighbour on the right or on the left. So if we go in this direction, then it's going to be kicking it more to green, maybe not that much. And then we can pull that down and get that deeper moss, if you don't want that yellowiness showing through. So that was just shot really specifically.
Same applies with sky. So, you know, yes, we can use skin tone tool for sky, and we've shown that before. But quite often in the sky, you've got a cyan look to it rather than the deep blue that maybe you wanted.
Yeah.
You can pick on the cyan in the basic color or the basic editor, and you can shift that hue to be more towards blue rather than more towards green. So you can control the actual tone, not just the brightness of that color too. Yeah,
and if you weren't aware, let's just, with your color picker, if you click and hold on the color that you want to edit, you'll see that little four-way cursor, it will disappear. Now if I drag to the right, then it's going to shift my hue to the right. If I drag up and down, then that's going to play with the saturation.
And then you've got option.
Yeah, if I option click and go left, then that's going to take my lightness down. So if you practice doing that, it becomes a bit second nature to just mess around with colors in a direct way as well.
Where are we? Tim, putting stars on a layer gives you more flexibility.
That's why it should be by default.
So yes, but there's some history there because styles used to, some cases applied to background for black and white and stuff like that. So there is a migration move at the moment to make sure that all stars are layerable.
Yes.
And that will become the automatic sort of approach.
Yeah.
But yes, the challenge at the moment actually, and I've found, is when you're previewing the style, remember the preview when you hover your mouse over it is as if it's applied it to the background layer, which means that any adjustments you've already made are then compounded on there, whereas it's not showing you as if you put it over the top as a new layer and then could pull it back and whatever. So sometimes you got to do a bit of a leap of faith and then know that you can pull it back from when it's a separate layer. Because you're not seeing a true...
And also there are lots of customers who would use styles just to put it straight on the background, like it's my default adjustments, it's my wedding style look, it's not perhaps super aggressive, so I'm always confident it's going to work fine on the background, so there's quite a few of those cases. So if it defaulted as a layer, then we'd probably get 50% of the base saying, why is it defaulting to a layer? But it could also be a good preference.
Paul is saying your green is a little nuclear.
Ever so slightly. Natalie, what's the name of the box you're using?
Which box? Box? Right now you've got a software broadcasting on, that's a webcam.
Oh yeah.
David's MacBook Pro, the M1 version, the M1 Max.
M1, yep.
With an external monitor and a Wacom pad.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the boxes.
That's all the boxes we have. If you meant something else, let us know. And Brian, late to the party. Hi, Brian from Wyoming. Also a nice place to shoot.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna have to rewatch the color part. Yeah. The tool on C1. Maybe you can describe it.
Let us know.
Let us know.
We'll try and work it out. To Carla's point about rewatching the color part. So and David mentioned it's the mask from a color selection is one of the most overlooked tools that you can get. Please don't use it for selective color. We're not in 1987.
Yeah.
But what you can do absolutely is isolate a color, and then the difference is it becomes a mask rather than a color.
Yeah.
And then you've got all the tools that you would have available to you as a mask for that color range that you've identified. So if you do have, a genuine use case, I had to do it for a hotel recently. Their parasols had slight, let's call it sunburn to them. They weren't so white anymore. They were a bit yellowy and whatever. We can create a mask of that color from the parasols and then use, for instance, negative clarity on it to get rid of the texture out of it, and that then smooths it out.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that without actually drawing around the whole thing in any other way. So it's a really powerful tool. Do learn it. Do use it.
So we've got the roof selected as an example. Could turn that into a mask if we wanted to. add some structure to it and so on. So now we've got a mask that looks like that. Oh, there's a bit more in the ground as well than I realised too.
There's a lot of red in there.
A lot of red in there. Yeah.
But also remember, so again, it's a mask. You can also apply a luma range on top of your colour selected mask. So when someone says, how do I identify this specific part of the image, there is always a way of doing it, whether it's by its brightness, by its colour, by its shape. You know, if it's by shape, magic brush. If it's by brightness, luma range. If it's by colour, then colour editor and create a mask. If it's all of them, you can use all of them.
Yeah, there's no reason why you can't put all that stuff together, which is why the gradient with the, wrong picture, gradient with the luma range works so well. And then that was colour editor with the clouds, with the refinement as well. So all those masks can be manipulated. Just word of warning, when you create a mask from the colour editor, it is quite binary, I guess. It does generally need...
Or it's in the selection or it's not.
Yeah, it's generally needs that refined step. Even though the smoothness slider has a little bit of fall off into the neighbours, it generally does need a bit of refinement.
Jed's asking if you've had the shark and snaps yet.
Shark and snaps.
I haven't forced the fish on him yet. We have also found out that if you leave it in the glove compartment of a car, that's interesting.
Yeah, it does smell a bit.
The schnapps thing is a bit of an issue when you're driving all the way through the night to take photographs, because strangely the bars aren't open at 4 when we get back.
No. What has Anthony said? I love masking for colour because the line around the shape can be softened and refined with the refined setting. And I guess if you refine it, you can probably double refine it.
You can refine on top of refining.
On refine if it's not quite enough.
So you can really, really soften it out.
Yeah.
It's a way of making a very subtle transition into something that's selected or not.
Yeah. Cool. There we go. I think that was it for today. Did we miss anything?
No.
Did we miss any BTS?
You got your big pano?
Oh, the big pano. This was,
there you go. That's
this was
something
the scene.
Like 2 in the morning, 1 in the morning or something like that.
Let's zoom out a bit.
Interestingly, all those tour buses that were there throughout the day
weren't there.
Didn't materialise.
No, I think we saw one other person, didn't we? Yeah, one. No, maybe 2. But who came briefly, and as we were leaving, that fella turned up, did a quick shot and then left, but no one else was...
I have got a video of David trying to convince 2 sheep to go away. We'll save that for another day.
Yeah, we didn't want the sheep in the long exposure, so yeah, there we go. Yeah, but again, it's a sacrifice, I guess, because now we feel quite tired today, and sitting in a church courtyard for 2 hours, there are some highs and lows.
There are.
But it was worth it at the end of the day, absolutely. And that was the drive back, wasn't it?
Yeah. Leroy's asking to be in the north. Ish. We're on the peninsula, so we're on the northwest side. We're not up in the West Fjords, but just below there, and then we're going to head a little bit further east and up again to there.
Yeah. So today or this evening, we will go to the title of this.
Your big lighthouse.
The big lighthouse. Yeah. Which is an Art Deco inspired architecture, I guess. Has basalt columns adjacent to it or in the foreground. What's the weather report?
Yeah.
But it's the kind of location.
There might not be quite so many happy golden colours in tomorrow's session.
But it's the kind of location that also looks good when the weather is compromised.
If you've got structures that stick out above, and what we're looking for is texture in the sky. If you've got a flat sky, it really doesn't help you. But if you've got texture in the sky and then solid structures, and we can capture the movement with David's brand new custom-made filter holder, then you're in a pretty good place, regardless of weather. It's why filters actually can be a really handy thing, because if you've got a scene where the weather is a little bit less than what you wanted, you can still make something look really cool.
This was the day before yesterday, but again, this was during the day, so it was super busy. It's probably hard to see, but there was, you can see the people trekking along the beach, and then they climb up the glacier a little bit. There's a path, I think, isn't there?
Yeah.
So it was a case of waiting for the right moment, which was fleeting, but there's always someone you can probably get rid of, which is not a problem for the heel brush. So there we go. What's the tool that showed the sunset data?
There are loads of them, so we're not going to recommend one in particular, because you've got TPE, you've got photo pills, there are loads of online ones, the ephemeris ones as desktop tools. But if you do a search for, and the reason I'm saying that is because some people love one tool, some people hate it and whatever. Have a play with them, but any of the, look for photographer sunset. planner.
So photo pills, TPE,
or photo transit.
There's lots, isn't there?
I've got another one somewhere else on my phone. But have a play with them. See which one looks right for you. Some people love AR to be able to do it. I don't like AR on one of the tools that we were using because it hasn't taken into account the fact that Iceland doesn't do daylight savings. So we were at the church an hour early.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But so there's lots of stuff that people love or hate about all the different apps. Yeah. But get yourself one, any of them.
But it's a great tool regardless of the genre of photography, really. Yeah, not limited to shooting landscapes.
Anthony, can you recommend a good ND filter? Yes, one that works. But I'm saying that and it sounds flippant, but I'm deadly serious with it because forget the brand.
One with gaffer tape.
Yeah. Forget the brand. What I would say is a couple of things as a standard approach. Do not complain that your pictures are affected by a cheap filter that you put on front of an expensive lens.
Yeah.
If you're going to invest in the glass in your lens, then invest in the glass in your filters. The light is coming through it. So there is, and genuinely, if you're going to put a $10 filter in front of your lens, why bother spending the money on your lens? Because the light that your lens is getting is only as good as what the filter allows through.
Yeah.
You want to, and in all seriousness, you want to try and test different filters. So if you've got friends that have filters, try different brands. All filters have a color cast. If a filter manufacturer says to you, we have 0 color cast, they are lying. Because the second you transmit any light through a substance, it is affected in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. You can have a very reduced color cast. So what you're looking at is the filter for your style of photography and the scenarios that you're shooting in. Does a slightly blue tint, a slightly pink tint, or whatever, does that affect
Does it matter?
you? Yeah. They are getting really, really good now at reducing it to the minimum, the bare minimum. But don't buy into the hype and the marketing stuff. Get a filter, test it. Go to the photo store if you can. Have a play with them. Use your friends as reference. You'll find, I've got a friend of mine that recommended the filter. He said, "Oh, but it does make everything very green." Okay, so let's have a play with it. As cameras are getting higher resolution in terms of their sensors, you also need a filter that can resolve those high resolutions. Some of the older filters weren't that great once you put them onto a high resolution sensor.
Yeah, I guess because I don't know the technology involved, but I suppose if the grad is a low resolution, that's going to come through.
You can actually see lines. But more importantly, the coating that's used on them and so on can scatter light in different ways. So you have to test this stuff. But what I wouldn't suggest is going for the cheapest option. You don't need to go for the most expensive, but factor it into your overall camera cost. The big players, in the UK, you've got obviously Lear out there. You've got Nissi are growing in popularity. Format High Tech are out there. You've got B+W or B&W. You've got K's. You've got
these were not Globe, it's Earth now, isn't it?
Earth used to be
URTH plus.
You've got Polar Pro. I could list probably 30 that we'd know about, and then another 300. But play with them and find the one that works for you, and also decide whether you want a screw-in filter, which will give you a better result for a solid ND, just a long exposure, than a slot-based one, because there are no light leaks to a screw-in filter. But if you want to be able to control gradients, then you're going to need a square system that you can control up and down.
The only disadvantage with this is that, I'm carrying quite a lot of filters because lenses are all different diameter. I suppose you could go nuts with step up and down rings, I suppose.
You can, but you still end up with the same amount of kit that you're carrying.
Yeah, true. Then you just end up with a load of step up and down rings instead of the filters. Yeah, that's true. And these weren't crazy money either. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but they weren't ridiculous. And without that, you're looking at the difference between...
Well, it's a snapshot versus a...
it's image. Between a considered image. Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully that helps. But the problem with saying this is the best filter is it's not necessarily the case for you. That's one thing to bear in mind. Carlos just said something needs to be done with the angry troll picture.
The angry troll picture.
Not happy at Kirkjufell. So
that's it. So we've got one other broadcast on
day after tomorrow,
Sunday. The day which is when we head back. We are going to do a competition to win a print. Details will come later on, probably June, July, but keep an eye out for that. So it probably depends on which picture you select, because it'll be one of yours, I think.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out the finer details.
It'll be the troll one.
Competition. The troll picture.
We'll do a 40-inch version of the troll
picture of Paul as a troll. Yeah, exactly. So details to that to come, but we'll figure that out in the future. And we hope to see you Sunday. Keep an eye on Instagram as well. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the button for notifications, and then you know when we're live, not just for this trip, but other future stuff as well. What's on Sunday? Anthony says. Well, it will be hopefully the Lighthouse.
And also you've got some architecture.
Architecture in Reykjavik, so a little bit of a change. So we shall see. Depends a bit on the weather.
Ouch.
When is it?
It's due to be at 10 o'clock in the morning our time on Sunday, which is
10 o'clock in the morning
UK.
on Sunday. So 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock UK, midday in Europe.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks again, everybody, and hope to see you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.